get started this morning. Everybody has a coffee and a tea. Welcome, and thank you for giving up your Saturday morning to be here. We do appreciate you coming today and taking part in what will be several different aspects of the morning, but really to engage. We think the best way to understand this is really to engage in it and to see a variety of different applications. Just to give you some background in this too, our educational committee has met, and we're really looking at how we're going to move the school towards this 21st century learning model. And it is about learning. It is about student learning and learning for kids. And of course that involves how we teach. So just to give you a quick overview, and we'll provide this as well later on, when we sat down and looked at the 21st Century Learning Initiative is about preparing kids for their future. So what does the world of school look like in 2020? What does the world of work look like in 2025? You can imagine that's fairly difficult to predict. So what we need to do is get them prepared for all the eventualities in terms of what could be coming. When we really looked at what this was about, at the end of a long discussion and then a lot of collaboration since then, we've managed to break it down into 4 central elements. And this is the idea of unhindered innovation, the ability to innovate in as many ways as possible and to access that information. To have a flexible progression so that students are developing at their own pace. This is that differentiation piece, so that if you want to take an idea and go with it, you can. And if you want to do some consolidation and slow down a little bit, you can do that too. The critical thinking piece, we want people to be critical thinkers, regardless of technology or not. This is just part of good education. And finally, the collaborative learning piece. And this is something that we keep seeing again and again in the research in terms of what's critical and what are companies looking for in the future. It's this ability to collaborate in groups. Interestingly enough, one of the comments that came out of our learning committee, like out of the education committee, is these are all good things regardless of the technology. If you take away things that you plug in, these things still apply. And I think that's critical for us, and that was a good test for the trueness of it. In terms of the innovation, we looked at those original and creative solutions, having media-rich creation, and digital literacy. And digital literacy is something that's going to come up today a little bit later on. The flexible progression being student-centered, really looking at taking different paths to get to the same end, possibly, or a different end that we didn't predict, and really looking at that assessment for learning. And the assessment's a critical piece too. And a piece of research that's come out from John Hattie, he looked at a variety of educational studies over the last 20 years, and feedback to students was one of the most critical factors for student learning. You'll see today some of the tools that we're going to use really enhance our ability to understand where you are as a learner and then provide specific feedback for you too. We want to really target that. In terms of critical thinking, we look at digital citizenship and peer review, but really as the learner, as the constructor of knowledge, not just the consumer. So we're making uploaders here, right? We're making producers. And then finally the ability to collaborate. We'll see that in practice today as well. Like any good organization, we have computer problems, which is the reason we're sitting here today. And we'll go from here in terms of, like these, we'll have a look at the general logo and the general, just like in terms of the direction. We have 4 presenters today. Gabrielle's going to start off, and I'll ask them to do a brief introduction in terms of where they teach within the school and what they're going to do. Gabrielle's going to start off, followed by Tim, Carrie Lee, and finally Kim Marie. We have the 4 segments that we'll get into today, really engaging you in what is a one-to-one laptop program, something that we don't have yet, but something that we think is really going to enhance our ability to meet our goals in terms of 21st century learning. So with that, I'll hand it over. Yes?
I just have one major reaction
Sure.
to this. It's right, you start with this, it's the student perspective. I would assume the other major reason they're doing this is a similar set of objectives for the teachers. That they can spend more of their time interacting, that there's less rework, that there's more collaboration between teachers, that there's a feedback loop for the teachers as well. That to me, it has to be that duality to get the most out of technology.
Sure.
And so while this is a good place to start, I would love to understand the goals that we would have for the teaching community. And the other reason I think that's important is my sense with something like StudyWiz is that how much it's been embraced by the teachers has been quite mixed. From full to pushing the envelope to not using it at all. And unless we're really clear about the benefits and goals that we have set for the teaching community, I'm not sure we'll succeed because they're going to be so important to us achieving these objectives as well. So I think we always have to put those side by side and say, are they in harmony in there? And we're going to achieve both.
As part of the board paper that we put together, that accountability element's definitely there, and we've taken it, you're quite right, from here to know what's the implication for teachers in terms of staff training.
But it will work because teachers see a lot of benefits from this, not just accountability.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the key things, Charles, is making people appreciate the benefits rather than using the whip the whole time.
Yep.
And in some people's cases that would be very quick, in others it's going to take a while to.
I'd love to hear teachers say, I had to spend 2 hours less a week because of this initiative that I now have for other things. That's productivity. Or I'm now able to impact kids that I could not impact before.
Right.
Or, there's certain kids that their creativity has doubled because that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, our first goal is obviously commitment over compliance. There's a plan for both, put it that way. So we'll get there. Okay. What we'll do too is, if I could ask that, there's definitely going to be questions that come out of this. I mean, and some of them are going to be technical questions. I think it's good if we can go through the 4 activities, and then we'll save some questions for the end. So we can keep our questions, our immediate questions towards the activities for now, and then we can kind of come together as a group and just ask maybe some more detailed questions about the general overall plan at the end of it. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabriel. This is my 9th year in the school. I came from Spain. I came as a Spanish language teacher. I started teaching everything from grade 4 Spanish to ab initio, and I gradually moved away. I'm now Theory of Knowledge and Spanish A1, which is the IB Diploma Literature course. I'm doing the first one. I'm also doing Mike Johnston's piece today. He cannot be here, so I'll be talking about humanities in middle school. You have a back channel where you will also be able to contribute, make questions, suggestions throughout. So after I finish, I'll sit down and I'll also be managing that. So we can do it real time to show you some of the things that we can do now with students. Mike and I have been looking at how we're using Google with students.
Home is where we keep the things we need. Whether it's a lawnmower or a coffee pot, it has a home in our lives. Of course, our documents are no different. For years, they lived on our computers. Each person has their own computer-based home for documents. When we need to share a document, we usually attach it to an email and send it to a friend's or coworker's computer home. Here's the problem. When you attach a document to an email, copies are created. Consider this. If you send an email attachment to 3 people, the same document will exist in 4 different places. That's a problem. There's a better way, and it means saying goodbye to messy email attachments. This new kind of home isn't on your computer, it's on the internet. And that makes sharing and collaborating on documents much easier and gives you full control over who can see and access your documents. Here's the basic idea. Instead of attaching a document to an email, let's switch it around and look at how we can attach an email address to a document. Meet Sam. Sam is the editor of a neighborhood newsletter called the Oak Tree View. She works with local writers who would like to publish articles in the newsletter. Sam loves her job, but often feels frustrated when time is wasted managing all the articles. It's a familiar problem. Each month, writers send her draft articles as email attachments. She reviews them and sends them back with comments. One article might create 6 different versions of the same file, not to mention countless emails. Sam often feels buried by all the email attachments. She finds it hard to keep track of all the versions being sent to her from the writers. As the deadline looms, frustration rises. Something has to give. Sam decides to try something new, Google Docs. Here's what happens. First, she visits the Google Docs page and creates a free Google account. She logs in, and because some articles were already written, she uploads the current drafts right from her computer. With a snap, Google Docs turns the offline articles into online versions. Now, all she needs to do is invite the writers to collaborate on the documents. Here's how. She clicks Share, inserts email addresses, and clicks Invite Collaborators. Google Docs sends the writers an email with a secure link directly to her document. One click, and they can edit and save the document online. This means that when Julie edits the document, Sam sees the changes immediately. Since there's only one document, there's never confusion about updates or versions. It's all saved, along with the past versions, on the website. For the first time, the articles all have a home, a single place for organizing and editing that is accessible from any computer with internet access. Problem solved. What's really cool is that this problem isn't just solved for documents, but also spreadsheets and presentations. All three can now have a secure home on the web that works exactly like Sam's documents. Sam is relieved. Without having to deal with attachments, multiple versions, and all that clutter, she can be an editor instead of a document master. And for the next newsletter, not a single email attachment is sent, and Sam beats the deadline by a week. Sharing documents made simple, and all for free. Google Docs rocks.
My first experience of Google Docs was while doing a master's in e-learning with the university. The last 3 years, school supported me through the professional development plan, and this got me thinking straight away. My email inbox has exploded. The first year in the school, I had 2,300 emails. Last year, I had 14,000 emails. So if you make a very conservative guesstimate of 20 seconds per email, that's more than 70 hours. I spent almost 3.5 days sitting just doing emails. So addressing your point, Charles, there's things that we can do to simplify all of this and make it more efficient. So what we're going to be looking is at a different approach to literary studies. I've got a very special class. It's a Spanish A1, so it's native Spanish speakers who are studying literature. In this campus, that means pretty much our national committee students. I've got a class of 13 students, 11 of them are national committee students from all over the world, 2 are Mexican students who live here in Singapore. And that makes for a very, very special class. And some of the things we're doing are this. When defining what books we are going to study, we made a conscious effort to look for books that are no longer under copyright. So we went to Project Gutenberg, which is digitizing in books prior to the 1920s, the invention of copyright. Those books are under the public domain. So for example, for part 2 in the Spanish A1 course, we're looking at Lara, who is the first journalist in Spanish. We went to the website, and we could download his whole book in digital format. No more buying books, very expensive, sending books from Spain to Singapore, the student forgetting to bring the book to class. We got the whole book in one place. StudyWiz. Addressing your point again, Charles, everything is embedded into StudyWiz. Students going to StudyWiz, they've got all their resources in the same place, and the activities that are relevant to that unit are here. So right now, homework for this week, we are working on our own edition of Lara's articles. The plan is, I'm not going to be lecturing. I mean, my previous life I was a lecturer at university in the UK and Spain before coming here, and I got tired of that. It's not efficient. I get the students to engage in working on the text themselves. So what we're doing is this. The students are working on the text in a Google Doc real time. This is a screen capture of what we were doing yesterday. As you can see, students are logging in and out and chatting at the same time on the site, and we are hyperlinking everything in the text. Students have one text where everything is. This is for part 2 of the A1 course, which means it's a detailed study. The students will get 2 envelopes with a piece of the text, and they'll have to do an oral commentary on it. So it's very important that they have as much information as possible on the original text and on secondary bibliography. And what is the easiest way? One resource, everything in there, real time. So each student was working on a couple of different articles. I was doing the introduction to the author and the literary style and the period, and everything goes to the same place. So we are inserting footnotes, we're inserting hyperlinks. Why are we doing that? Because that way, everything is true. A student goes to a word, I don't understand the word, a student can just click, and it goes straight to the Spanish dictionary. We have the Academia, which defines it. We have a normative system, where we have an official Spanish dictionary, and I can go straight and show the students, this is the Academia's definition of this word. Bang. I've got students from different backgrounds, different dialects or versions of Spanish, Latin America and Spain, all over the place. We can even follow what the word means in each of the different dialects. So, the students are loving it. Yesterday was a bank holiday, and I have most of my class connected real time. Why am I testing this? In a couple of years' time, we'll have another campus opening. We'll have to decide what we're doing with the Spanish-speaking scholars. Are we going to keep all of them in one place so we can have the subject? And then we're going to have a Spanish-speaking ghetto in one boarding house and the French-speaking ghetto in the other boarding house? or I'm going to distribute them throughout, and I can have virtual class. I could be anywhere, leading this class, facilitating student learning, and we can have real-time interaction. We can be saving the attachments, we can be doing everything in one place. Built into StudyWish, so we can track usage. The students are using the official school Google Apps account, so we can also track that. It's inside school. So far, students are loving it because I'm dangling a very big carrot ahead of them. And the idea is this. That's an ebook of what we're doing. So once we finish, I promise to them, once we've got everything done, I'm going to turn this into an ebook. It's very easy. I can export from Google Docs, take it to Pages in a Mac, and export as an ebook. And I'm going to try and put that in iTunes U, or I'm going to put it in Amazon for free to download with a copyleft license, so anyone can download it. So if Lipo Chun has spoken to Jesus, the Spanish A1 literature teacher in Lipo Chun, if they decide they're going to study the same book, fantastic. You can download the resource with everything embedded, hyperlink, and there we go. So next step, we can start thinking about cross-campus collaboration. We could even be looking at cross-UWCSEA collaboration and trying to set up a plan with some of the Spanish A1 teachers in Mahindra, Lipo Chun, and in Adriatic to see if we can study one book, the same book, throughout all of the colleges. And the students could have real-time interaction, we could share all the resources as a way of furthering the brotherhood amongst the different colleges. How can I do this? Very simple. I need access to devices. I'm very lucky, my classroom in Route 62, I got an agreement with Dr. Price a couple of years ago and said, if you centralize all computers in my classroom, I'll make a hub, maximize it by putting the PCs on the wall, so it's still a full classroom, so we're not losing one classroom as a dedicated computer hub. It's a full classroom, and my students only have to turn around and use a computer. It's still messy, we have to move things around. To me, laptops would be a no-brainer. The students have all the motivation here. Because what I'm doing is, I'm not going to be the author. Lara is the author. But this ebook, editors, officially, will be the students. So when they write in the university application, when they go to universities, they could say, check out my work in the open. I've edited an ebook by the age of 16. I think that's a very good selling point. Any questions so far?
Sorry, Gabe, do you just want to explain about the Google Doc?
Yep.
So we've got them on the computers now, I think.
Okay.
For the back channel, I mean.
Oh.
So on your computers in front of you, we've opened up a collaborative Google Doc. And what you can be doing is, there's two Google ways of Google Doc. What you can be doing during the presentation is just writing down any questions that you have for the end, and obviously you'll see each other's questions as you fill out the doc. And then at the end of that, we'll refer back to that doc to kind of answer the frequent questions, or the ones that are coming up a lot.
One of the beauties of doing this is that this automatically becomes a Q&A, as our FAQ, frequently asked questions. As you keep asking and we keep responding, the answer is already there. So I don't have to keep on replying to the same question 20 times over. The answer will be there the first time somebody asks the question, and that will always help the dynamics of the class, of the group.
Has everybody pulled that up?
Home is
Okay, second example, I become now Mike Johnston. Mike is working with the students in middle school humanities and English, and the students have a problem trying to write formal letters, and I can blame them. What's the last time one writes a letter? Probably a very long time ago. So what the students came up with, the idea was, why don't we write guides on how to do it? So the students subdivided themselves into small groups, and each of these screen captures you can see here is a group of students who decided, right, I'm going to be looking at this. I'm going to write the ultimate guide on how to use colons and semicolons on a formal letter, and I'm going to share it with the whole class. So you got a class of students subdivided into groups, each working a little bit. When you put all the bits together, the students have a fantastic resource on how to write formally, how to write academically, how to write a formal document. That's the kind of individualized attention to students. That's the kind of collaborative learning that we need. The teacher could give them access to a very good website that will probably have all the information straight away, but there will be no sense of ownership, there will be no empowerment of the students. This way, they can see what they're doing, they can see the value, they feel empowered because they're sharing with the rest of the class, they can even show their parents, and all of that contributes to the motivation.
I asked the first dumb question.
Yep.
Because I'm struggling to find out where I type in order to get the question to show up.
Okay.
I've typed in a box, but it didn't appear. Type down here.
Yeah, Anita, that's, you can see the cursor, so that, you can see where the different people who are working.
So now, so I type that in.
That's for the chat.
Okay, so where do I type?
Just
Just there.
press the cursor wherever you want.
Start typing.
Yeah. So what we're doing, my students, is we're working on
Okay.
these text while having the chat on the side.
How do I see the chat on the side? Click on it.
If you click here, you will automatically open a window.
Down there.
If I may go back to Charles' point earlier, where you were saying about how to facilitate things for teachers, the amount of emailings or documents within this campus. David, I'm sure Joy is fed up with getting email attachments for Dunia. Something like Dunia should be automatically collaborative platform, online, like school curriculum documentations, anything like that, should be done this way. The time I can save from my email, I'm quite happy to put in this, and the time I save, I can play with my kids.
Yeah. And it's not a spelling test.
You can right click and show that and progress is real time as you go. Okay, I'm quite happy to reply to any questions in the back channel, and I'm handing it over to Tim now, who's going to talk about disasters.
Good morning, my name is Tim Shepherd. I'm head of geography here. I've been here for a while. It is a while. I'm fascinated just to be sitting back there watching you. If this had been a classroom of kids, you'd have been all over the computers. And in fact, the bits of paper on your table were simply is a little technique we do to get the kids to focus on the teacher in the front when you really need to, is you over like this. I think you're going to behave, you're not going to be on Facebook. Let me tell you what I'm going to be showing you. I've been teaching to a 9th grade class, geography, starting GCSE, since the beginning of term. We kicked off with plate tectonics, and then we rolled through volcanoes, and then today, this week we started on earthquakes. And the lesson that you're going to see, or part of the lesson you're going to see, is an introductory one to tsunami, which is going to, of course, to the earthquakes. And they've been briefed before. We spent a lot of time with volcanic activity, what the word mitigation means, which is the reduction in the impact of something. And the idea is that they are given a task. Now, traditionally, what I would have done would have been perhaps put some pictures up on the screen, maybe a little bit of video if I was going to be a little bit more innovative. We would have done some question and answering about what sort of things can we do to reduce mitigation, perhaps put something on the beaches, educate the kids, etc., etc. And then maybe we'd give them a workshop, and then that a worksheet, and then that would have been it. And then maybe finish it off for homework. What we can do with the computers is something a little bit more exciting. And the video I'm going to show you was shot on Thursday, period 8. So it's pretty fresh. It could be fresher. I actually had to cheat a bit to actually squeeze it into a single lesson. I would normally have done it in a double, which meant there would be more time to have actually talked it through afterwards. What I'm going to ask you to do in the first 3 or 4 minutes of this clip, I want you to do 2 things, is to watch what the kids are doing, and simply also listen to what the kids are doing and what they're not doing. Okay? Thanks. Okay, if you listen carefully, we've been looking at earthquakes. One of the big effects of an earthquake is the generation of a wave of water which approaches the coastline. We call this a tsunami. What we're going to do today is a little simulation based on how we might mitigate. Do you remember the word mitigation? What does it actually mean? Reduce the effects.
What this simulation will allow you to do is to try and reduce the effects of an inevitable tsunami. It's going to take about 20 minutes. We'll just about get this in before the end of the lesson. You should have gone to this site, stopdisastersgame.org, logged in, hit play game, and then you'll get a list of scenarios. It's the tsunami. If you're getting the wrong page, you're not typing it in correctly. It's stopdisastersgame.org, not stopdisasters.game.org. Okay? Once you start, you'll need to read the instructions carefully. That takes a couple of minutes. You can't go straight into the game. It's a simulation. You're trying to save lives. Now, clearly, this is in a classroom, but the same ideas are actually worked out in reality, with a little bit more complication, perhaps. Okay? Start playing it. I'll come around and help you if you're having issues. It's the tsunami one. Right, which level? I would strongly suggest you start at the beginner's level. Okay? If you have played it before, you go to the intermediate. Yes, John? If your internet's not working, give me a moment, I'll try and help you. It says it's working.
No, but it keeps going back to the UWCSEA.
Now you're a guest. Let's try.
Alright.
Try now.
It always fails.
How many of you have actually seen this simulation before? Just a couple of you. Okay.
Why we? Yeah.
Was there one scenario?
Tsunami. Yeah. I'll sort the homework in a minute.
Easy? Yeah. Easy, unless you know easy.
Go for easy. Yeah.
Has the tsunami already hit?
No, you have about 20 minutes. The tsunami is inevitable. You can't stop it. All you can do is mitigate. You need to help each other as well. Okay. What do you think about the level of focus? They were on task the whole time. Hardly anybody was actually distracted. They weren't looking out the windows. They weren't chatting about what they were doing in the evening. And that goes on for the whole 40 minutes. It's unbelievable the amount of actual focus on the task that they're given. The other thing is, the amount of instructions they were given was very minimal. Very minimal. Yet they went in. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. We've set it up so that you can actually play this simulation. A couple of quick things though before this, so that to speed things up for you, because we don't have 40 minutes. The idea is that you are given a pot of money, and that pot of money can be spent on various things to mitigate. Things like barriers, providing education so that people are aware, schools, hospitals, and so on. If you don't spend quickly, it will take you 20 minutes. So I'm going to have to ask you to take off perhaps your financier's ideas and spend. And act like a 14-year-old who's given his weekly allowance. Spend the money fairly quickly. Spend it on big, expensive items, and that will get rid of the money fairly quickly. So it'll only take about 5 to 7 minutes to go all the way through. Start at the beginner's level, unless you want to be a risk taker and go a little bit higher. And it is the tsunami. You should be set up to actually go into stop disasters. Hit play game again, and then the scenarios come up, and it's the tsunami, which I think is the top left. We'll come around and help you if you actually have problems actually getting it started.
We have we've turned the sound down on all the machines because there's lots of beeping in there. So if you want to turn the sound
Like
up
sound,
again,
turn it up, yeah.
F12 a few times will turn the sound up on your machine. It's in a tab.
I'm just going to log it in.
There's
Is
a
it in
tab,
history?
right?
No, just type it. Yeah, it is. It's in history. All
I had a
right.
tab.
You should go Windows.
Okay, first leave this.
It's in here, history. Sorry? I'm trying to shortcut that. Spend. All right.
Split the dough, yeah? I've got a different disaster game. I've got a picture of Wayne Rooney. Playing away from home or at home?
Tiger Woods must be so happy.
Ben, do you have another computer? Can't think
We do. Kerry Lee still.
Yep.
Mine.
Oh, Gabe still.
I think.
Just take.
Why did it expecting that to be a problem?
Shouldn't actually, it was fine.
There's a South Bar again, you know?
Everybody's dead.
I have a white screen. No, I don't think so. Okay, so I've got two.
I thought this is where the IBM guy would.
No, I tell you what, what some of you are doing is opening it up again in another window and it's already running.
Oh, it's behind.
It was already open in a tab and that confuses it.
So I confused it. And now it just keeps flicking through all the disasters.
Interesting, when we are doing this with the 12th grade, they take a lot longer because they're actually analysing all the different sets of information. The 9th graders go straight in and they learn by their mistakes. So in fact, in their first run through, they often fail. They don't actually do much in terms of litigation, but they learn from those mistakes when they run it through the second time.
I'm going on Facebook Live. You mean
Yeah, yeah. I noticed this group's looking out the window.
Ever work with computers, children, or
It was working Thursday, is it?
video shows?
Should have had the idiot version for the
The other possibility is we've got another, there's the art one, which is open as well.
So what you did is you drag it? So you go to the school area. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the...
If you've got, so say for example, I'm so child who's very good.
Do you want to play? Yeah, just put to the sound.
Play the sound down.
Just a bit, yeah.
No, no. Right. Sorry.
No, I think they tried to anticipate us but they had it ready to go. Yeah, but that still shouldn't now I did not.
Hotel expensive.
There is an option to actually push the time case to finish if you can.
You tried.
No, you're looking at something else, aren't you?
Somebody had already finished this in the time that you've been and actually passed it. Yeah, there's a few actually.
Oh, mine's
I
only loaded.
don't understand why. So we had 26 working one day on Thursday. Yeah.
And you got that one. I just got that.
Oh. Well, these are already.
That's right.
You get it up on your.
Sorry?
You get it up on the wire.
And then
You bring up the website to show
You
it.
might like to think about thinking outside of the box. By that I mean this area
Yeah,
here.
this.
This shows a map of the area. Don't just get confined to one little area on the screen.
There's an access point in this room. Yeah, no. There isn't access in each room. There is access in each room.
oh, Ray's all right. He's got that.
But has he saved anybody yet?
And what did these all you?
Yeah, just put it to one side. Let me see the.
Whatever these are all in.
Just move that up. Oh, okay, try it.
I've put the cable
Yeah, play
so
it.
it goes quicker.
You're there. Loading.
No, this is what mine did.
The white screen of death.
Does he want my credit card?
Goes up fast until about 70.
That's our new app.
Well,
We ever want to have like computer ready. Tim
so yeah,
ran
that's
it
Thursday afternoon.
on Wi-Fi, so it's
I've played it for several years, 3 years now.
having. I mean, obviously,
As it would happen.
Yeah. Having the right infrastructure is obviously really important. So it is part of the IT budget anyway. To create, we don't have a wireless cable. It is in the budget to do that.
Loading complete. Now what do I touch? Launch page. So I just go to play.
Yeah, mine kind of stops.
Okay, so maybe Gabe, what's the choices? Gabe, shout them out so people can vote.
Yeah.
Way down.
You want to play?
Yeah, I'll play.
Successfully managed to destroy the
Just like a real life.
This is the whole area.
Yeah, there we go. You can you see
Your budget of 50,000 and
Many people
click on maybe like the spot here. Click this. Now develop. Or we would defend.
Once you get to a certain level, it will actually let you
Is that
launch
not
the
water?
tsunami.
That's sand. Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, so cancel that. Let's do the difference where let's put more angle. Okay. Let's build something else. Right. We need to build a hospital somewhere.
Okay.
We want to build a hospital. Yeah. On a higher ground. Yeah.
So that's
If something is really developed, maybe because of that highlighted.
yeah, I guess so. Well, let's see. What can we develop? We want barriers. That's how vulnerable.
Okay, I can actually start it now because I've spent up very quickly. There's a lot.
Click on differences.
The report tells you whether what you've done and how you've done it. And then, in my case, it failed.
Oh, I didn't click on that one. Okay, so I've just put a concrete house on the same. Alright, probably the same. Let's try going back to where the website put a hospital.
You click on a house. Click on a house.
Go back a bit if you want.
Upgrade.
Yeah, it's going to be that.
Okay, so now we do building reinforcement and start spending.
What's interesting
So
then we just click on building
maybe, oh, click on it. No, that's not.
and one
Why is it like here? Tim, I can't scroll down. Alright.
Who's already completed?
Oh, there we go. You need to click and hit the hold the mouse down and go. It won't do the two-finger drag. Because the hospital's at the bottom.
Look at Rainbow.
Alright, our hospital for that one. Just didn't give it just right now. Go back though. Is that also
That reduces the threat ecosystem.
It's cheap.
Only be built in China.
Oh, that's a double fences. So it's cancel that and go back to clicking. And then it comes up again.
There is a progress bar on the bottom right hand side which gives you an idea. In fact, it's in the full screen now. If it's turning into red, that suggests your tsunami is on its way.
Okay, let's
I don't think that's the idea.
Because that's what you do.
I don't know if it's that sophisticated. So now all we need is
Yeah. It's gonna spend a lot of money. Breakwaters, and I can't put a breakwater. A seismic sensor. Ooh, that was
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, the wood. Except it says it's too close to the shore.
Okay, so
All right, well then, let's just put some trees for now. Oh, it has the tree, those kind of pictures. Let's go for this kind of trees. So,
Pardon? Say it again. Yeah, do you, at what level?
Okay, is that good?
Well, you try an intermediate level. Try an intermediate.
What about
I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Okay? What I would normally do is then do a session about where meeting with reality, where it is real, where it's not real, and then we do some further work on it. I couldn't do that. And then it's such a complex set of variables there. I couldn't do that any other way. And the issue I have is I can do that with one class, but if I don't have computers, I haven't booked them. I can't do it with the other classes. It's really frustrating.
Well, I just asked Mike what you think. Obviously there were some technical problems to get it going, but right now we can't stop you. Now, once you've got it running, the level in the room just went right down and everybody was
We may have to ask you to put the tape over the screen for the next presenter.
And some of you are still going.
Well, that tsunami's coming soon. I'm coming.
Yes, they've got one eye on it.
Any comments about the actual activity? And I think, as in the department, I think it's great. And we actually say we run this with 9th grade, we run it with 12th grade as well. And it's just the difference is the level of analysis they do.
Do you subsequently have a long discussion?
Yes, as I say,
what you've done.
And that, the 12th grade, that will actually write a full-blown extended piece of writing as to what, where it fits in, where it's real, and what other issues, and what could we actually do to improve it.
I guess that's the question I'd have was with the teacher hat is like the assessment piece of not that you have to assess this, but what is it that you're assessing?
I mean,
like down the road, like with the 9th graders, you just said the 12s.
Well, the 9th grade, I mean, it's knowledge, it's application, and it's the ability to be able to use different variables.
Yeah.
And there's actually a whole range of things that you actually assess. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yep.
We'll take a couple of minutes maybe to grab a drink or a toilet break before we push through.
You put your score.
Guys, can I interrupt and get started? For future reference, Ben, please don't put me on after Tim. My name is Kerry Lee Beasley, and I think I've got the best job in the school. My official title at the moment is Digital Literacy Teacher, and while that might sound a little bit pretentious, what it really means is that I get to go into classes and work with teachers and students, helping them integrate technology more into what they do across the school. So I get to work with all sorts of different age kids. Today I'm going to show you a little bit of something that I'm doing with a grade 6 group. Normally I wouldn't be working with them, but because AMK goes up to grade 6, this is my lucky year. And we're using another of the Google apps. We're using Google Wave and looking at how that can help do these two things: unhindered innovation and collaborative learning. Let me see if I've got this right. Basically, what that allows us to do is take learning and particularly the sort of stuff that kids do at home from this to this. I'm going to be sort of switching between, hopefully, to show you little aspects of it. In terms of collaboration, it allows the kids to learn from the others, develop shared understandings, and I guess that when you're looking at your Google Docs sort of on and off now, you can see that even though one person might have asked a question, you also see the answer to it, whether or not you asked the question. So you're getting a shared understanding of some of the things that people are interested in finding out and some of the answers. I've got a very mixed ability group of kids that I'm working with on this particular wave, and at the moment I've got probably 3 kids would have been here, but they're at a netball game. 1 person's flown to Australia, so I'm not, but I've got Marius. Marius will be online no matter what, so hopefully we'll be able to see some of the stuff that they're doing. Again, any feedback that's given throughout the wave gets seen by the whole lot, and I'll highlight some of that in a moment. It's really good for feedback. The feedback that you can give with using technology like this is instant. It's personalised and it's ongoing. So whereas if I do normally we might give a homework assignment, for example, I can give feedback on that before the next lesson instead of getting to class and doing that. Gabe talked about putting his e-books out there to share with the rest of the world. Well, it certainly does make everything in it have an authentic audience. You're not just preparing for real life, it is real life, you're doing it. It also gives them a responsibility for their digital footprint, something that when I was growing up certainly wasn't something I had to consider at all, but it's part of our kids' lives and it's what they are going to be doing. I mean, people Google people if they're applying for jobs to find out what they've been doing and so on. You know about people being sacked from comments they make on Facebook. So if we're teaching responsible digital citizenship as we go along, then hopefully it means we're going to have responsible digital citizens. You can address problems really quickly. I teach these grade 6s once a week, and on the wave I've had about 3 or 4 questions that I've already been able to respond to before I get back to the classroom. So if the kids had to wait for me to answer their problems or answer their questions when I see them in class, I'm really limiting what they can achieve because they can't move forward until they have an answer for their problem. So I'll just flip over to the wave. It's also a tab in your browser, so if you want to have a look too. Basically in English Humanities the students are studying about the UWC movement and the different colleges around the world. So they have an oral presentation that's coming up, and they have to research one of the colleges from around the world and prepare a 3 to 5 minute speech presentation for their class on the UWC that they're looking at. So that's. Can I scroll down a little bit? So this morning I added something. The 906 this morning I'm adding a couple of things, please fill them in as you go along. So I've asked them what are the similarities between the college that they're researching and our college. And then Marius, I told you about Marius earlier. He's online. I said, anything else to add? Think of it, because it allows you to be specific with your feedback. I've seen they noticed some really little things like that they both like service and they both do that, but they've missed all the other points that they could have been looking at. So I'm like, okay, think about the categories you've been researching, so I can redirect and refocus them to what they're doing.
And that's a blog that makes the comments available to everybody? This is
called a wave, Google Wave,
right.
And it is. It's like each little blip is something that someone has added, and it's like just like the Google Doc, but it's in a slightly different format. And what makes it really good for research, if I scroll down a little bit, it allows you to put maps on. So who's this? Probably Marius. Yeah, there you go. Marius has got the UWC of Maastricht. He happens to speak English, Chinese, and Dutch. So that's why he's looking at the Maastricht one. So he's added a little map in there, and I think he's also added a photo as well. The reason it's highlighted is because it's new information for me. And down here you can see next unread 9. So there's 9 things that I haven't read yet that the kids have added for me to check. Next time I see it, it won't be highlighted. I can see the edits that they've made when I'm looking at a new they call it a new blip, like a kind. Now this morning, 9:20, Zena, who's off playing netball, told me that she has downloaded the software to make apps from iTunes. She's got an idea where she wants to make an app with her friends and put it online, and any money they make from it she wants to donate to global concerns. Not bad for grade 6. She said, it's actually taking me in circles a bit. I can't download Xcode. I have no idea what Xcode is. No idea whatsoever, but at least I know that I'll be able to find some people that will know.
Maria's just said he has to go now. See you Monday.
Okay. Yes. So, here's another thing. Like, a lot of the kids are, like, sort of, their idea of research, it's a bit of copy and paste. And I wrote a little comment underneath Alex's, saying, Alex, it looks great. Do you want to summarise it in your own words? But then when I look back up, she's written this, to change into her own words. So she already knows that she needs to do that. So she was able to clarify that she'd already done that. So I worked that out. Like I said about problems, I think if I go down maybe to the bottom, it's Katie, wherever she is. Sorry, just one more second. Okay, Katie had a question for me underneath. And that's one of those things. Here, Mrs. Beasley, I'm having trouble opening up the Google Earth part of it. What do I do? Now, if she didn't have me to answer that now, then the next time I would see her is Friday, which, you know, maybe it's like last Friday was a public holiday, so she doesn't get the answer to her question until I come to class. Whereas this takes me no time at all to just inform her about what it is that I'm doing. She's now put an image in Wave, which she didn't know how to do, but Marius did it, so she got to see what Marius was doing. So now she wants to make it bigger. She's not happy with it being tiny. She wants a bigger image, so she was asking about how to do that. So it's really a powerful sort of tool. The kids love the collaboration, but also all of this sort of feedback that I'm giving can easily be deleted. For example, if we wanted to have a finished product, all I do is click on the little button there and I can delete the message if I want. The other thing that I can do is there's a playback feature. A couple of people were asking about accountability and, you know, how do we know who's done what? Well, you can see, and I'm sorry that the kids weren't online while you're doing this, because as they're writing you can see every keystroke. It's not like when you're using Skype and you type a message and then when you hit send, people see it. On Google Wave, you see every letter that they type. But there's a playback feature where if you want to know who's been doing what, you just click on play and it sort of takes you through all the different things that have been added. So it's really easy to see who's been really active, who hasn't done enough, all those sort of things. So
can only the person who set it up see all of that? Or
no,
any
all
of
of those
people,
kids.
all the kids could see what the others do?
Yeah, they see what I see.
If you get all the clients, you might not have that often installed. How do you sort of allow for overload? I mean, if you've got everybody's on there, you could be sitting in front of the computer all day just answering questions. Maybe not all day, but I mean, are you not sort of shifting, you know, the situation where they become too orientated towards the computer? Well, it's not a concern, it's a question. I think in general, I don't have a problem with the overall picture, but I work in a space much more where it's face-to-face, working with groups of people and what have you. And that's a challenge where you get multicultural, multi-ethnicity, getting people to collaborate and not worry about failure. I mean, with the kids, they're probably much more comfortable with it. But is there a danger that they become sort of collaborative online, but offline, it's actually making their skills even worse? Because I can see that happening now, particularly kids face-to-face.
Their social skills in class? I think what this allows you to do is maximise your face-to-face time with kids. So instead of having to answer little questions about things that I can get into some of the meat of the stuff. And if you think a room with a whole lot of kids on laptops is quiet, it really isn't. They're like, oh, hey, look at this, I've got this. They're really quite good about sharing. And, I mean, we definitely would promote balance in terms of
Yeah, I think
they
yeah,
don't.
that's
They're not
the essence. Yeah,
because
that's
they have
the
a laptop there doesn't mean that they're only working and they're not working with somebody else. They can't help themselves but share, like in the same way that I heard you, Liz, say something like copy last build. So you were telling somebody already about that one little part that you learned. It is something that I think needs to be monitored, because you definitely want collaboration, and it's certainly part of it. This is my homework task, like this is what they're doing at home. That's not what we're doing face to face.
I think as well, if you watch kids around, if you see them in the tent, for example, if you walk through the school, the laptops are a focus of conversation. Because to the students, for the people of their age, this is a communications tool. That's what it is. That and their phone. For them, their avenues of communication, that's where they get to the things they like to see and view. You know, the hub of their social life. That's how it works for them. So it's a very, for people of our age, you see it as a work tool. Students look at them very differently, and they interact with them very differently.
Also, you also get lots of kids, in terms of back channel type of things, you get lots of kids who are too shy to put up their hand and ask a question, but when it comes to something like this, they're happy to add it in, and that makes it nice, because you see the kids that you wouldn't normally see it interacting in the same way. So.
Do you find a skew? And I mean, it seems like Marius and a few others are very active. Do you find some that are just not active at all? And how do you manage the balance between that, or how do you encourage, or do you have another way to reach out to them, or?
At risk of making your eyes go crazy, I've made a little comment under every person's thing, and let's see. There were a couple of people hadn't put on references. They've obviously copied some information from the website, but they haven't put it on. So on Billy's one, I said, great to see you put the link where your information comes from. The kids like to read other people's, the comments that I make to the other kids, they read them. So if they haven't done it, they sort of go to do that. Like I said, some of the kids haven't been online much. And this guy hasn't. But then this morning he was on, up the top.
So the assignment was to actually be online and use it. Right. Okay.
Is there somewhere a summary of how many times they've been on there? So you can just have a quick look, and it's got Marius.
No, but I can see Tim Shepherd's clicked in it, so I can see who's done it there, and I could see on the playback who's done it, but I don't think there's any breakdown of most used things.
I find this aspect, I was in class, you can see the dynamic of the teacher, but that's a big step forward, that the kids can see your feedback to each of the other kids. See the work, they can see the feedback. And I can see how that would be, it's just, I can see huge positives, and I can also see some challenges with that. Again, it'll make, in some ways it'll make the teacher's job harder. But I was never aware of, unless they showed it to me, now you aren't giving me a grade here, but still your feedback could be viewed as very more positive than theirs, and then look at that.
I'm pretty careful about it.
It's a big difference.
If you read my comments, I'm pretty careful.
And I'm sure you are, but it is it's the way the world's going. It's crossing a new line of how open the feedback is.
But also, so I was going to say that it's interesting when you see the interpretation in this world compared to, so you can react immediately if you've got somebody in front of you. As you speak, you'll adapt. A lot of things can be interpreted in multiple ways, and because I find in the workplace a lot, the interpretation of an email from a particular source is negative before it's even been read. And even if you put the most positive response, you carry on down this sort of. So I think it is a bit of a challenge in this world to be able to respond in a way that is really connected.
One of the big things in education, in terms of education research, that's really, it's exploded. It's been around for a while, but probably the last several years, it's really right at the forefront, is the nature of feedback to students and their learning. And whether it's on a digital platform or whether you are actually writing something in their notebook and it's one-to-one, what you are putting down and how you are directing their learning is critical. And it's a big shift, and it's a shift away from the place where a teacher just would put well done. Because what the research is showing is that the well done, in terms of moving that child along with their learning, has no value. Other than to just, it really has no transmittable benefit to their learning. And so the content of what we're putting into our feedback as teachers is, the importance of that is huge. So that Carrie Lee's comments about what she's writing and she thinks about how she's writing it, I'd say that has to happen in this platform, but it's happening, it has to happen on every platform of feedback. It really is a big piece of what we know helps kids learn too.
Has there been a sort of, I call it a transition workshop, for whatever reason, for the teachers? Because this is a change programme. However, it's change for a lot of people a huge scene. People don't always take very happily to change. Just looking at big picture, I can see the benefits of it. I'm cognizant of the fact that there's different ages and people will take to this like the duck takes towards and others will change. But have we sort of sounded out the teachers in terms of what they see as their concerns, what they see as the positives, and how is it? Because I mean, if it's sort of just presented, I'm not saying it has been. If it's just presented, well, this is the way we're going. You'll get a mixed reaction. Some people will volubly say I don't like it. Others will say quiet. And other ones you've got to always be careful. I'm just wondering what work has been done in that area, and it'll be ongoing. It's not we'll quit 1 hour workshop. Thank you very much. Off we go. This is a continuous change process to bring people on board. So I just wonder what's happened in that area too.
One of the things that we've done is invested a lot of time looking at organizations with an exact same context as ours, so international schools, and how they've rolled it out, and what they've been successful with, and what they've not been so successful with. The program success is largely based on teacher buy-in, if you will, and teacher training. And I think that's a consistent one that we keep seeing over and over again. And you're quite right to say this isn't immediate. There's no immediate statement that you say, and there's instant buy-in. We've learned that teachers have to come to the technology, so it has to be available. There has to be 2 levels of training. One is the out-of-the-box training. How do you open the lid and turn it on? That's the technical side. The more critical side, though, is the subject-based training. So who's coming in to do your training for the geography class, right? So is it a Tim Shepard that's coming in and talking about how I teach disasters using this, as opposed to I'm just the technician that comes in and teaches you how to use the machine? There's a huge difference. And the success there, all the data would show that having a teacher come in, talking to other teachers about an idea within a subject using a tool is far more effective, right? So that's the critical one. We also need to get machines into people's hands so that they have a certain level of comfort with them right off the bat before we get them into classrooms. And that's the lead time that we need to make this successful, right? So, but you're quite right, Charles, to say it's the mental model shift that's the critical one. And again, the research would show one of the biggest issues that teachers face is letting go. Because I am no longer the keeper of all knowledge. I can't be, because you have access to several billion works of information and all kinds of different libraries. So I have to become the facilitator. And this is where, and that's a big shift for a lot of educators. For some it's immediate, right? Yeah, no problem, I can just stand up at the front and I can be the guide on the side. I don't need to be the sage on the stage, if you will. And I can work kids through in terms of the flexibility and the critical thinking, and I can ask questions and I can help you collaborate. And when we're doing that tsunami scenario, I can say, you're an expert group, you've got it, can you switch with this person and move kids around the classroom, and can you tell me your strategy, and let's analyze the strategy. And all of a sudden, this collaboration just becomes facilitated, and I'm just guiding that. But that takes a lot of practice.
And the key thing is, the people in this room, Kim Marie is an art teacher, Tim's the head of geography, Gabe is a Spanish teacher, head of TOK. Kerry Lee, of 4, is the only IT specialist. The others are also.
And I've
want
only
to talk
done
to
it
Tim
for
about
3
what
years.
She's only done it
for 3 years. This is my 3rd year, actually.
So if you want to ask Tim what high school humanities thinks, ask Tim. Ask Kim.
I think that, to go back to your original question, have we got buy-in from the teachers? Certainly the impression I got from talking to various people is the heads of departments are pushing for us to go in this direction because they appreciate the frustration that Tim was talking about only having internet and access to it. We've got a long, I was going to say a slog, but it's going to take a lot of work to bring everybody along with this, and I don't think we're.
But we do have a plan.
So I think that the key thing with all these is people can see, and that's what Charles alluded to first thing, if people could see what's in it for me, i.e. if a teacher said, if you could show me a tool where I could get 4 hours a week back, where I could spend more time doing this which is for them, that's really good. But if it's not, if it was imposed, you're going to do this, like it or not, then the whole thing will fall over. It's the other thing. I know it sounds selfish, but it's a fact of life. People will go along with it. I can see what's in it for me. It's the benefits.
It's the same I was saying earlier about the students being able to publish and become an edited author by the age of 16. As a teacher, I can buy my portfolio and have it online. I can upskill, and that's only going to be based on my own professional future. So there's also a big element of buying for the teachers, because if I upskill and have all these new abilities that I didn't have before, that's going to help me progress on my career. So that's a very big item as well.
And this is a 3 to 5 year program. We're not going to change things around yet. It's going to take a long while to get everybody on board and in that direction.
And we do have a plan in terms of identifying where teachers are currently, and then what the next step is for their education. Because we have people at very different levels. So it's a matter of absolutely meeting your needs as a teacher.
Hi, my name is Kim Marie. This is the start of my 3rd year at UWC. Prior to this, I was over at the Australian International School in Singapore, and I had one-to-one access of computers. I've actually been using IT since 1995 in art departments in Australia before that, so quite a long time. Today I've been asked to show you the access that I've had here compared to the Australian school, also how I've taught a unit of work over there and here with and without technology, and then I'm going to get you to be creative and create an artwork as well. So that's what we're doing today. Okay. My philosophy of art education is about integrating and collaborating across disciplines within art. It's not about throwing out paintbrushes and drawing pencils. It's about using those traditional forms of art and then integrating IT into it to create better outcomes for the students. So just as a very basic example to show you to start off with, this is some parts of a body of work from a student of mine from 2006. So painting here, it's about identity and third culture kids. So painting, this is all relief sculpture here, and then we have 2 digital media works. So this student actually photographed sections of the sculptural work here, particularly this part and this part, and they're actually embedded in the background of these photographs. So we use traditional media, and then we take it into the more contemporary practice. I work mainly with Photoshop and video editing as an IT component of my teaching. So this for us is the ideal way to integrate technology into teaching without discarding tradition. So this is a UWC classroom. This is Deborah's grade 9 class. It's a fabulous classroom. Kids are engaged in traditional art making. Apart from the hairstyles, it could be this year, 1970, 1956. It hasn't changed. These skills are essential to art education, but there is no real evidence that it's 21st century learning. So at the Australian school, I had a classroom of 25 computers, and so I had 25 computers, and so when I got there in 2004, I had three desktops. I have a laptop trolley of 10 and 15 desktops. And then in this part, you'll see there's all the traditional art making art. When I got there in 2004, there was 3 computers in each classroom, and the IT director came down saying, we're going to give you more computers, and we'd like you to disband your darkroom and 1 storeroom so we can give you a computer lab. And we did some research, because for us as art teachers, having kids in a computer lab didn't allow us to integrate traditional and contemporary art making. And so the research we got in 2004 said that by 2010, kids would have a computer of their own that was the size of an A4 piece of paper that they could roll up and carry around with them. So we took that to the director of IT, because we feel it's our job to educate IT directors in art education. And so we took that to them and we said, we don't want a separate lab. We can't mix paint and computers together in a separate lab. And they actually listened to us, and they gave us what we wanted. And so when I left in May 2008, so this is May 2008, we had over 60 computers between 3 classrooms for the high school teachers. And so what we were trying to do is get kids doing traditional work, so it's a very dark photo, sorry. So they're doing ceramic pots and they're doing sgraffito into the sides of the pots, which is from ancient Greek pottery. And we have kids being able to just jump up, there's a kid up the back there, go up onto the computer and then go back to the ceramics work if they want, when they need to. So the designs they're putting on the pots, they drew up first of all on a piece of paper with a pencil. We scanned them, put them into the computer, so they were already there. Then we started building the ceramic pots. And as they started to put their designs on their pots, because you go from 2D to 3D, it's a whole different thinking level. And so sometimes the compositions didn't work, so we could go onto Photoshop, make some adjustments, erase parts, flip parts, skew parts, put perspective in, and then go back onto the traditional media. So we were able to really integrate it in that way. I do have access to computers at UWC. We have a booking sheet and we have 1 laptop trolley between 6 teachers. And this was back in March, so my name's all over it because I'm trying to get it as much as I can. But I have to be really, really organised.
What's a laptop trolley?
This metal thing.
And
And then you put all the laptops in there with the plugs.
And it charges them up and then
yeah.
secures them.
Yeah, one of those.
Okay. Okay, so we brought these things in.
Yeah. So that's in a storeroom, and this is how the students in the art department experience the start and end of their lessons to go and get their computers to start doing some work.
So this program would eliminate laptop trolley. It would be basically
Absolutely.
So, Sally's here with her class. I've muted the sound, but she's saying, don't touch, because that's our story. The whole heap of really important, dangerous equipment that kids should not be touching. And Sally's this year starting to implement IT into her teaching. She's literally in the last 2 weeks, she's taking that big plunge, like you were just asking about before, to start doing it with her classes. And it's been an absolute nightmare for her because she's trying to get kids with laptops and she's away from a classroom all the time, but she's having a go, and you really have to jump in and try it. And when I didn't know video very well, I had a director of IT say to me, you've got to try it once, and the kids will teach you. And I did it with a grade 9 class about 8-9 years ago, and the kids all taught me. And so I built up my confidence. They taught each other. And part of the deal was, it's their job to keep me current, because I'm not a digital native. Okay, so, this is the IT cupboard over at the Australian School, circa 2008, for 3 teachers. We had digital cameras, video cameras, and digital SLRs down there. It was a highly regulated system. We had an art assistant who could do all our manual things like mix up our glazes, cut our paper, stretch our canvases, but she was also an IT genius. And when things like what happened with the flood disaster happened, we could call on her to assist us. And then if between us we couldn't sort it out ourselves, then we called the IT department. And we were called Code Red, our department was called Code Red, and 2 technicians would come like that to help us because we had huge amounts of technology. When I left, it was about $250,000 worth into our department. And part of the assistant's job was to search out new things for us to implement into our teaching. So she was allowed to spend part of her day surfing the net to find cool and interesting things for us to do with our classes. I would go to her with an image by an artist, because everything we do is from art works, and I'd say, I want to do this for my class, and she would spend the time to research it for me, to save me time, so I could then be in the classroom with my kids. So that was part of her role. That's the cupboard at UWC last week. So there's a bit of a difference what's going on. This is a unit of work that I've taught at the Australian School and a unit of work I've taught at UWC. So at the Australian School I did a lot of IT integration into my teaching. First of all, we start with The Great Wave by Hokusai from 1829, so you may have seen that, it's quite famous.
Did you deliberately link that to our first lesson?
No, and I thought of that last night. It was amazing, because last night I looked at the PDF.
And the Woo wave, it's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's actually just happened by osmosis.
Tsunami and it's coming.
Yeah. Depending on what literature you read, though, this is actually a tsunami. So anyway, we've got Mount Fuji in the background. So we do a lot of work with historical sort of art stuff. Then I show the students contemporary art practice. So I'm making that link between traditional and contemporary all the time so they realise what's going on. This is actually a performance video of one of my grade 12s from 2005. Like you, we've had people affected by the tsunami, the Asian tsunami, and our sister school over in Sri Lanka was devastated by it. So this student used this as part of her body of work for grade 12, and she created a performance with an audience, and we videoed it, and so I just gave you some stills. So these are tea leaves. So there's a whole heap of symbolism in this that I don't need to go into about, but you know, you get an audience to interact with you, and because it's 4D art, it no longer exists. It only exists now through videos and photographs. And this type of art making has been around since 1970, so it's not new. So what I do is then I get the digital cameras and I took the kids to the pool, and they brought in props, and we chucked everything into the pool, and we did digital photos underwater. Took those digital photos back up to the classroom and put them into Photoshop. They selected, we went from macro to micro, selected a small section, and then I taught them about using filters and manipulation. This is grade 7, by the way. Okay. And teaching them how to manipulate in an artistic way rather than just a fun way, which is a big deal. We'd then take another small section and rotate, go back into traditional art making media, so these are very large drawings and paintings, and we would use Chinese ink and chalk and paint. And they had to sort of create that flow of water that was going on. And this is all about layering, because to be a good painter you have to be able to layer. So we would then photograph their large paintings and go back into Photoshop, where I would teach them about layering in Photoshop. And then in English they were writing poems, and we got them to do poems on water. So they've actually layered loads of text. You can't see it in this, but in the real ones you see layers of their poetry is actually embedded into their artwork. So as the kids love this unit, they really, really remember it. They're jumping from traditional to contemporary all the time. It's really brilliant. UWC, I do the same thing. Start off with Hokusai's Wave. Show them what contemporary art is about and how students use contemporary art. I give them tea, and we do drawings with tea leaves, so they do a visual study. And then we do our paintings with paint and chalk. And that's the end at UWC. Because I can't guarantee that I can get digital cameras, I can't get laptops necessarily, so that's the end. So now it's time for you to start thinking about being creative and making something. And so what I thought I'd do is talk to you about collage. Now collage is the French word for gluing. In my class I teach it as cut and paste, but we then like to do click and drag. So again we're using the terminology cut and paste, which is the old-fashioned, and then we do click and drag, which is the more contemporary way. So a pair of scissors is a single function device. I can curl paper and cut it. A computer, I can do multiple things. So on a computer, so you should probably be familiar with what is happening in this photograph.
At our level.
This is just to make you feel comfortable. I thought I would put this in. You probably remember cut and paste, and it's a fine motor skill lesson. This is collage, click and drag on the computer using Photoshop. This is grade 8. So the photograph is actually a colour photograph that's been manipulated. Everything else in the background here is what's called a digital brush that you get off the internet, and you click, and it's on your page. You can adjust it, you can add perspective, you can warp it, you can change the colour, you can add texture, you can do loads and loads of things with it. And it's all about layering and to make it really, really effective. And this is collage with video.
dreams, and they are made out of real things, like a shoebox of photographs.
Okay, I don't teach that at UWC, but I have in the past. So you're going to do college. I can't teach you Photoshop and video editing in the time I have, so I'm going to get you to do a very, very basic interactive off the internet that my grade 9s are going to do in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. So we're looking at still life and the concept of vanitas, and we're really looking for them to work out how to create composition, really good composition, before they go out and take photographs. In my classroom, I don't put the paper over the screen. I ask the students to put the lids at 45 degrees so that they don't lock it, so they're paying attention.
It is 8 o'clock, and we'll probably wrap up. If you have any comments or concerns or anything that comes to mind as you're going home tonight, just that you can give us a tweet or add it to the Google Doc or anything else that happens to be convenient for you. So thank you all for coming tonight and experiencing this, and thank you to the presenters tonight too for your time. Thank you.